All right, what's up? Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be talking all about small cap penny stocks, mainly today, stocks like DWAC and PHUN. These are very hot stocks right now with the upcoming midterm election and Donald Trump's potential presidential bid that's happening very, very soon. These stocks have been seeing a lot of volume, a lot of volatility. So we're going to be breaking down how I've been trading them and my plan going forward. This is very simple stuff. Well, simple for me to teach, but most traders kind of get this all mixed up and they just see the wrong picture. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down it very simple step-by-step so you can learn it and apply it to the best of your abilities. With that being said, hope you enjoyed the lesson. All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Trade Buddy Trade Recap webinar. Today is Monday, November 7th, and today we're going to be talking about two small cap stocks. Number one, PHUN, and number two is DWAC. So these ones, it's kind of an interesting setup, interesting catalyst. Obviously, most of you know by now that I think it was a week ago now, we had Twitter was taken over by Elon Musk, and it really hasn't been going so well for him PR-wise. I don't really care about the details of, like who you care about too much, but basically, he's been having a hard time trying to make his idea of free speech, and people are really just starting to hate the platform. And he's banning people for parody accounts and stuff like that. So he's really not doing a good job of running the company. And also, obviously, they've been burning cash ever since they've been made. So he's doing whatever he can to try to make it profitable, and it's not really looking too good. So a lot of bad press about Twitter. So people are starting to look for alternatives. Now, I don't believe that DWAC and Truth is going to be a good, viable alternative to Twitter. I don't really think Twitter is going to die, but that's kind of the hype. That's the PR that's going on right now. So, people are starting to hype up and look towards other, types of social media that will be a, potential replacement for Twitter. So that's the main catalyst for DWAC, right? This is the company that is launching Truth Social, and they're also involved with Donald Trump, and so is PHUN. So there's another catalyst on top of it because it's, pretty known by now that Donald Trump is likely going to launch like a new campaign probably this week. He's going to announce his new presidential bid for 2024. So obviously, any companies that are associated with him will probably see some type of hype. So that's the kind of main catalyst for DWAC and PHUN. They don't have any news releases, personally. They don't have any PRs that are put out, but that's why they're getting so much volume. So those obviously bring it to my attention, right? Because mainly for me, I want to trade small caps that are being hyped up and have good trading volume to them. So for the watch list today, the main real thing I was looking for was mainly for both of these to break out above their pre-market highs. On DWAC, this one was trading very early on in pre-market, and so is PHUN. You can't see the data here on E-Trade because E-Trade just has limited data in pre-market. But for example, here's what the 5-minute chart looks like on PHUN. You can see that the early pre-market resistance is right near $1.47. So that is the nice pre-market high line. I'm going to draw that off right now real quick, just so we have it here too. So it's right around 147, right around there. And then I think for DWAC, for DWAC, it's actually, I don't have a picture of it. I know that the 5-minute pre-market high is pretty much up here. So its actual pre-market high was like right around 28 something, 29s almost. And I'm pretty sure that their hourly chart line was at around 2430s, somewhere around there. So into the morning, right, I was just watching these. I didn't want to buy into the hype too soon. I really wanted to wait until they showed me some type of strength. And so you can see on PHUN, you can see that it just had a big pullback into market open. It tested the lows. I stopped kind of watching it. But then, towards the afternoon, 1 p.m. market time, it was really starting to build up some strength, had a lot of volume coming into it. And this was able to actually break out above that pre-market high. So once I saw this breakout, obviously very strong breakout, went from 147 to 160s. It's not that big percentage-wise, but just in terms of the range that this is showing, it's a decent move. And it had, crazy volume with it too. So from there, the main play I was looking for was just one of my, basic setups, just looking for that pre-market high to retest and hold as new support. So that's the trade I was planning on PHUN. And before we get too far, I just want to talk about DWAC too at the same time. DWAC was also seeing a very strong move. Once again, this is not the pre-market high here. You might look at it like here on E-Trade, but that's not accurate. The actual pre-market high is up near like 2880s, and the hourly line chart level was at around 2430s. So just kind of near the same time, you can see this was happening right near 1 p.m. So if you look at the time that PHUN broke out, it was right near 1340. So, just after 1 p.m., just before 2 p.m. And at the same time, you can see that DWAC was breaking out and really holding and consolidating against that hourly chart level. So all things considered, right, knowing that this has a really good chance to see continued volume. I don't see the Twitter news getting better anytime soon. So we have that hype. And then obviously the hype of, Donald Trump most likely announcing a new presidential bid in the next few days. People are going to be talking about this, right? People are going to be looking to trade this and get in front of that news. There's a very common saying within the small cap world and just in trading overall, you want to, buy the rumor and then sell the news. So most people, when they hear this, they'll say, okay, well, let me just wait until he actually announces and then buy. But that's actually not the right approach. Most traders, most investors like to buy into the hype. And then once the news is confirmed, they sell. And that's why you see many times people go crazy, like, oh my gosh, news came out. Why did it dump? Well, it's because the news was known. Everyone's already in it. There's no one else to buy. When we saw DWAC kind of breaking out and holding that hourly chart level, I said, you know what? I like how this looks. I think it has good potential. And I also remembered that DWAC had options. So, whenever I can and whenever it makes sense, I do like to trade options on small caps, just using the same things as with stock, but just buying options instead of stock. So in this case, it had options available. I saw that it was, breaking out and holding the hourly chart level, and I decided to buy some calls with a $26 strike. Not going too far, kind of being a bit conservative with it, just to make sure I could still make some profits even if it doesn't work out. And these options expire on Friday because, usually with small caps, you don't have options that expire every single day. They usually just expire on Fridays. Like I went for that play. Yes, it wasn't over pre-market high, but it was over the hourly chart high. And we also saw that PHUN at around the same time was breaking out. So, because they're very closely linked and they have the same catalyst, there are some situations where it makes sense to look at another stock's strength. And if they're enough of a similar play, then you can kind of use that other stock to not so much predict, but just, kind of predict, I guess, if you just want to be straight with it, but just kind of envision the volume coming into the current play. It's not like this was dead completely, right? Like it still was showing strength on the hourly chart. That's why I bought down here. So I bought some calls down here. Normal play, whenever you're trading any stock whatsoever, you always want to have a plan to lock in partials into pre-market high, or just lock in partials into known levels of resistance. No matter what, no matter how strong you think the potential is, no matter how much you think it can break out, your job as a trader is just to buy support and sell resistance. So when it gets to that resistance, you need to lock in some profits. So, shortly afterwards, we saw DWAC ran up into that pre-market high. I knew that it was known resistance from my chart. So I locked in some partials there. I bought the calls at 231 and I sold them at $4. So, not a bad trade for about, a half hour of holding. And at the same time, hopefully this isn't too confusing, but they're two very similar plays. At around the same time, we were seeing PHUN start to do its pullback. Like I said earlier, I was definitely looking for this to pull back and retest that pre-market high as new support. So I had a limit buy waiting on this at 151. The stock pulled back, it filled me. And then from there, the overall plan, the setup is that, as long as it can hold this pre-market high as new support on the 5-minute chart, I'm going to keep holding it. And my first target is always the first next resistance. So in this case, that is up at around 162, 163. So the stock, was testing support for quite some time, but I wasn't nervous. I had my plan, managed the risk already with my sizing on it. Now from here, it was just a matter of waiting. It retested support. Some people would say that it looked like it was going to break down, but you can't predict it. As long as it holds, you have to keep holding. And then eventually volume did come in, broke through a VWAP. It was seeing nice volume come in, and it spiked up and very quickly tested that pre-market high. So I took a partial profit there. Not a big win, right? Only 10 cents per share. But no matter what, it's your job to take off some risk, lock in some partials, pay yourself, because you never know what's going to happen. Even if it does, have a massive breakout and it runs to $2 right away, you still have shares, so it's okay. You're still making money. But if it rejects there and you didn't lock in any partials, now that's where emotions start to come into play. Now you're going to, be worried of, oh man, what if I missed the top? Okay, let me raise my stop. And you're going to start doing things that you didn't initially plan for. But if you can lock in those patience partials, it helps you follow your plan and just stick to whatever the chart's doing. You can see here, it did, just have a small breakout higher. It ran to 168, but overall it did reject. And if I didn't lock in partials here, now that it's pulling back, you would probably be just more so concerned of, man, what if this thing breaks down? I should lock in the small gains here. But to me, because I followed my plan, I locked in partials. Now I'm just kind of sitting back saying, okay, you know what? Yes, it's, seeing a rejection there, but overall, as long as it keeps holding support, keeps making higher lows, then ideally we can see the hype just sustain itself and it could potentially break out even further. I am going to be holding this one overnight. I'm also going to be holding DWAC overnight. Now on both of these plays, just to look at it from a clear perspective, these do kind of look like failed breakouts on the 5-minute chart, right? So this definitely, if you look at the line chart, it looks like a failed breakout. It did peak over it. Now it's back underneath. And the same for DWAC too. This one, it didn't really break out over pre-market high. It kind of has a failed breakout. But they're not really obvious failed breakouts. So, you could choose to do one of two things. You could see it as weakness. And if you think it is weakness, then you would ideally want to try to sell into that previous resistance as resistance again. So on PHUN, you'd want to try to sell the rest into the 160s. And then for DWAC, you would probably want to try to sell the rest into this 2880 area. Or you could choose option number 2 and say, well, they don't really look like massive failed breakouts. They're just kind of testing resistance. And we're still seeing higher lows. So you can just kind of default back to the first plan. As long as it holds your thesis line, then the trade is still valid. Neither situation is correct or incorrect. It just more so depends on what you want out of the trade. For me personally, because I know that there is upcoming, hype and rumors about these companies, and because Twitter is just imploding on itself, I do think that there is a good potential for these to continue to test and then eventually break out through that resistance. Either way, I've already paid myself some money. And so even if it does fall back down to my break even, I'm going to be overall green on the trade. So it's not like I'm risking it all. And that is pretty much the main stuff for DWAC and PHUN. All right, so if you enjoyed that lesson and you stuck through the entire thing, then it probably means that you like the way that I teach and you are able to understand the concepts that I'm teaching you. If you're a new trader and you're struggling in the markets, I know that you can go out and try to learn it all by yourself. I did that same thing, and it took me years to finally, grasp it all and make an actual system. But I want to shorten that learning curve for you. So I have a lot of free content down below. Number one, I have my 1-hour trading course that you can sign up for completely for free to get an actual roadmap of how to trade. And also I want to invite you to my community of traders with a 14-day free trial. You're going to get a course, a chat room, and you can talk to me directly and ask me questions. So I want to help you on your journey. I know it can be very stressful, very hard to kind of figure out all the pieces, but I've already made the puzzle and I want to give it to you solved. So if you want that content, please click the links down below. And with that being said, I'll see you in the next video lesson.